So I guess a few things about travelling solo. The first thing I would say is nobody cares, right? It's quite easy when you're solo in a place that is known for the family holiday or to go with a partner at minimal, to think that you stand out. And maybe you do to a few people. You know, I myself has spotted 2 or 3 other solo travellers, 2 women and one man. I'm pretty sure they were solo. But for the most part, no one cares. You know, you get on a bus, no one cares. You're queuing in a ride, no one cares. Half the times you're on the solo rider line, so no one cares there, right? Literally, if you think you're going to stand out and people are going to think you're strange, don't worry about it. No one pays you any attention. They're too absorbed in their holiday and their fun, and you know, it's not a problem. I've struck up conversations in the single rider line, it's been fine. The bits where you think you might stand out for, like when you're sort of waiting for wishes or the Star Wars fireworks or illuminations or something like that, struck up conversations, people have talked, it's never been an issue. It's just, I just don't think anyone cares. Before you go on the plane, or in all the thoughts you may put into this before you actually go, you will think that people will think you're strange, when the honest truth is, no one cares. Next thing is the single rider line. Use it. It seems to work slightly better in Disney than it does in Universal Studios. That's because in Universal Studios what happens is you get whole groups of people who are actually really, you know, families or, you know, groups of people who've come together and they're just willing to be broken up. In my experience in Disney, that I realise I may have just have been lucky, is the single rider line is used more as a single rider line. In that it isn't just groups who are willing to be broken up, it's people who are going on because their husband doesn't want to, or stuff like that, you know, people who are singularly queuing. That seemed to be slightly different in Disney on the weekend, but during weekdays the single rider line seemed very much to be used for what you would imagine it would be used for, which means it's very quick. I was literally end running rides. Expedition Everest, never queued. Test Track, never queued. I've literally not queued for anything. Now this does have one disadvantage, if you can call it that, is you consume the content of the park ridiculously fast. I mean, it is absolutely ludicrous. You know, you'll nip in for a couple of hours or 3, you know, in that morning segment before you come back from the pool, say, and you will burn through the ride so fast, sometimes you'll be wondering what you're going to do next. So single rider line is an absolute win. Now this may be one thing that's unique to me, but social media has really worked for me. Because, okay, I am obviously to some extent an introvert. You know, I'm not an introvert in the sense that I don't talk to people, but I'm an introvert in the sense that I don't need to be gregarious and outgoing and constantly socialising and talking to people. I'm okay in my own head, I'm okay on my own, and I don't mind socialising with individuals or small groups. But you know, big groups where I'm supposed to be like loud and big, that's not me. So I am an introvert, so I get away with things a bit because of that. And I think you would probably have to be an introvert to come on this sort of holiday. Otherwise you'd probably drive yourself absolutely insane. But social media really helped for me. So, you know, I could keep up a conversation about the holiday with my friends and family on Facebook. I could post things to Instagram, which got the odd discussion going. The vlogging helped, because it actually gives you someone to talk to, right? I know it's a bit weird, which you're talking to the camera, but it is to some extent a conversation. So the fabric of the social media reduced to some extent the isolation. Now for me, it didn't reduce the isolation to the point that the social media made it work. If the social media hadn't been there, the holiday would have still been fantastic, but it was just a little underlying element that added something to the holiday. So I think the whole solo traveller thing, solo Disney thing, is made slightly more easier. I'm not saying it is a makes it work, doesn't make it work if it's there or not. But it just adds a little element to the holiday that keeps a conversation going even though you're on your own. So social media can help. And finally, I guess the obvious one, you can go at your own pace. So some days, well, most days, let's admit it, most days I got up early, I went into the park for 2 to 3 hours, pooled it in the height of the afternoon, and then went out again somewhere in the evening. Now, I'll admit that was largely the format of things when I used to come here with a partner, but it meant I could go on rides as many times as I want. I mean, I was so amazed with the new way they've done Test Track. I went on it about 4 times, right? Single rider queue, round and round and round. I'm not saying I wouldn't have got to do that with a partner. She'd have been quite happy to let me do it. She'd have probably even done it with me. But the point is, there is nobody else you have to accommodate. So you can literally do anything you want at the pace you want in the strange site. You know, I've had situations like yesterday, day 13, where I went out with the intention of going on the new Seven Dwarfs ride. I got there, did a few things. It was still an hour until the fast pass, you know, because it was after 10 at night, and I was just physically tired and I couldn't have done it. So I just came back. Yeah. But, you know, if I hadn't been on my own, maybe the people I'd have been with would have been keen to stay the distance and do the Seven Dwarfs ride, and I'd have stayed. So, yeah, you are totally at your own pace, totally at your own whim, and that is absolutely fantastic. So has there been some negatives? I'll admit there has. The main one, which I'll get to, which might have just been unfortunate and might never actually be repeated. I think the 2 negatives for me are certain elements of Disney that don't work for me as a solo traveller 45-year-old bloke. This may be different for other solo travellers. So one thing is the Magic Kingdom. Now I guess this is influenced by the fact that for me, the Magic Kingdom is my 4th favourite park, which means it's at the bottom. So I'm inclined not to be overly keen on it anyway. But as, you know, a 45-year-old man on his own, it just feels very uncomfortable. You know, it is all families, it is all partners, and the park is very orientated around children, and it just doesn't work. I only really went in it 2 or 3 times, and then not for very long. For me, it didn't work very well for the solo experience. Now I understand this is different for other people. I know there is people who go solo and their main focus is the Magic Kingdom, but it didn't work for me. I think the other area that doesn't work, which I was more disappointed with, and where I felt more like I was on my own, the Magic Kingdom I could put to one side because, you know, it's my least favourite park anyway, is Disney Springs. Now, I love the new Disney Springs. Not so much because they've replaced the nightclubs with a posh retail section, but because the removal of the nightclubs has extended out the nighttime activities of Disney Springs throughout the whole of Disney Springs. So it's less that you go to the nightclub section to do nightlife stuff. It's more that as you walk through Disney Springs at night, you know, you encounter music here, music there, and it just feels wholly integrated into the whole length of Disney Springs. And it's a great place just to walk around, enjoy the music, have a drink on the top level of that Coke building, which is absolutely amazing. But of course, all those things I've just said only really work if you're walking around with someone else. So I think one of the negatives of the holiday for me was I loved the new Disney Springs, but experiencing that as a solo person just doesn't really work. You need to be walking around with someone else. I would have loved to spend an hour or 2 just sampling the Coke, so I don't drink, so you know, that's my option. On top of the Coke building, the Coke store, but you know, you can't do that on your own, you need to do it with someone else. So I guess those are the 2 things in Disney that didn't work for me solo, but that is it. Everything else worked perfectly fine. The other thing is the big one, which really disrupted my first day, along with the feeling that the weather was going to be extended periods of long periods of rain for quite a while. And that was my experience at Customs. Customs obviously viewed me as suspicious because I guess I'm an old, 45-year-old man come to Disney on his own, which is just weird and shouldn't happen. As a result, I believe they thought I was coming here to work, which I'm not. I don't want to live in the US, I don't want to work in the US. I am quite happy working and living in the UK. But they were really suspicious. To be fair, the first guy was quite pleasant. He did ask me more questions, I think orientated around whether I was working. So I had to pull out proof that I'd booked trips and everything like that, proof that I was actually on holiday. He stamped my passport and then sent me to a second person who asked me all the questions again, and it took about 15 to 20 minutes to get past him. And it wasn't very comfortable. And I honestly believe if I was a 22-year-old woman doing exactly the same thing, I'd have breezed through customs. So, will this be a problem for anyone who matches a similar sort of profile who wants to do a solo Disney holiday? Was I just randomly selected? Was it just bad luck? I have no idea, but it wasn't very nice. So that, I guess, is the other negative. But should I ever do this again, which I will come to, that would be one concern for me. So the big question is, would I do it again? The answer is actually no, but it's got nothing to do with the experience. The experience was fantastic. The only reason I wouldn't do it again is I've got no real reason, I don't think, to do Disney again till I've added something significantly new. I think this time more than any other, and maybe it's to do with being solo, is I noticed the weaknesses in what Disney has to offer. Magic Kingdom is great at what it is, but as I said, it's my fourth favourite park. Epcot's pretty solid. I love the Animal Kingdom, but there's some real weaknesses in Hollywood Studios. So, that park is virtually empty now. It really doesn't offer enough, entertainment, and they really need to do something with that. So I don't really feel the need to come here again and experience all the same stuff again until sort of like Pandora's online. Hopefully there's some more Star Wars stuff, and then I may consider it. So would I do a solo Disney holiday again? Yes, in theory, when all that new stuff is available. But my life may have changed by then, or I may be able to come with a family member or something like that. So there's probably only a small chance I'll do this again in this exact same way. But it's got nothing to do with the experience. This solo holiday has been absolutely brilliant.